Hello, darling. Welcome back to this special second Wednesday Ramblings for the week. I'm Ravi O'Leaf, and today is the debut of Chucky Season 2, which is the reason I'm doing two Chucky-themed episodes this week. Now, as you may have noticed, I got myself a shirt specifically for this episode, as well as the fact that Pride was celebrated in Saturday in this area just the other day. So got this shirt for those two events, decent timing, and I was lucky enough to get it in time. I ordered it a week in advance and was told it might be 6 to 8 business days before it arrived, but it arrived just in time. I learned of the shirt through James A. Janice on Dead Meat, which is a channel you should definitely check out. His enthusiasm for horror movies is amazing, and he provides a lot of info, a lot of which that I learned for this video. So big thanks just to him publishing these great videos. So in the previous episode, which you should check out, and if you haven't, I'll provide a link above. But in the previous episode, I recapped Season 1 and gave some thoughts on specific storyline moments. But I wanted to share a few other thoughts about the season in a separate video, which I hope you'll appreciate, since that video went for 48 minutes, which was over twice as long as I expected it to go. But I promise that this one will not go quite that long. But one of the things that a lot of fans enjoyed about the previous season was the cool openings every episode. They would show various objects coming together to form the name Chucky. The first episode showed doll heads, the second episode knives, just a lot of different things, which were usually hints to a major moment in the episode. So a lot of times when watching, I would watch to see what's coming together. What is this going to symbolize? The saddest one was definitely the episode where it's a bunch of glass shards, and you're left wondering, what is this a reference to? And then you find out when, he brutally murders sick Aunt Bree by shoving her through a window. So that was actually a super neat idea of the series. The creator of Chucky, Don Mancini, is someone who likes to do a lot of different unique concepts. In fact, he frequently changes up how the movies go along. In movie 1, it's kind of a mystery through the first half. Is Chucky alive, or is Andy a psychotic little kid who's projecting his thoughts onto the doll? Of course, after you find out Chucky is alive, they can't go the same route for movie 2. So movie 2 and 3 are more traditional horror. But then Don Mancini switches it up for Bride of Chucky, in which it becomes a comedy. Seed of Chucky is more of a farce and introduces a lot of different ideas. The first of which is now bringing Jennifer Tilly in as herself. She played Bride of Chucky, and she played Tiffany in Bride of Chucky, and now she's back, both voicing the doll version of Tiffany as well as playing herself. And that is something that Don Mancini has really embraced lately, is bringing back actors and actresses as different characters. The two big examples are Adam Herdig plays a cop in Curse of Chucky, and then he plays Multiple Malcolm in Cult of Chucky. But also, Cult of Chucky has Michael, I apologize if I mispronounce any names, but I believe it's Michael Terrio playing a creepy psychologist. And then he returns for Chucky the Season, where he plays the much more sympathetic Lexi's father. There's a few other actors and actresses who play different characters as well. And of course, Devon Sawa plays twins in Season 1 and is going to be playing a completely unrelated character in Season 2. And I'm interested, is this just being done because Don Mancini likes working with specific actors, so he brings them back in new roles? Or is there going to be a storyline reason for why we keep seeing these same people playing different characters? I don't know what that's going to be, but I keep hoping there's actually a storyline reason for it. But we'll see. So I mentioned Michael Terrio as Lexi's father. I wanted to talk a little bit more about Lexi's home life. And I did talk about this in the first episode, but I wanted to go a little more in depth with it. So the first time it happens when Lexi's mother, the mayor, makes a comment about her bad behavior. Some people took offense to that, which I personally didn't, because Lexi was terrible. And her mother's comments were not really that inappropriate. But as the season went on, she just crapped on Lexi for no reason all the time. And I suppose a part of the reason for that is to try to start making us feel sympathy for Lexi. I personally never felt sympathy for Lexi, but that doesn't mean that I did not like the way that her parents treated her at times, especially the mother, though the father kind of weakly went along with a lot of it. But one of the things that really bugged me with her parents' behavior is the way they kept blaming her for the house burning down. Now, yes, Lexi threw a party, but you can't really blame the party on the fire, because at this point, both the mayor and Michael Terrio's character, they both realized that there was a lot more going on than just the fire that Lexi had nothing to do with. They knew Oliver was stabbed to death, so they knew someone was there and murdered people. That is not something Lexi can control. She may not have been supposed to have a party, but she can't control if a murderer shows up. She has no control over that, and the fire erupted because of the murderer. So for them to keep crapping on her for that really bugged me. Again, I didn't gain any sympathy for Lexi for this, but it was something that I definitely wanted the mayor to wound up getting killed, and she didn't, whereas the much more sympathetic father did. Another thing I was curious about with season one was the role Detective Evans, that's Devon's mother, played. At various times, it seemed like she might actually be curious about, is Chucky alive? And I read speculation online that I was really hoping would come to fruition, which it didn't, which is that Tyler from Child's Play 3, the little kid that Chucky tries to take possession of, could potentially be Devon's father. Now, that's still a possibility, though it does seem unlikely, but I think part of what fed into that is the mother being so curious about the Chucky doll, which made me wonder, had Tyler told her about it? And maybe she didn't believe him and was now starting to think, maybe this is true. Unfortunately, we never actually find out anything about her feelings on the Chucky doll. In fact, at the time she dies, she only knew Chucky was real for about 30 seconds before she's killed off. But that is a storyline I really wish they'd come back to. I want to know, what are all the previous people who know of Chucky's existence doing? If Tyler isn't Devon's father, what is he doing? What about the Kincaids? What about De Silva? I'd really like to see De Silva return. Why did her and Andy not work it out? One thing that this series does, I really liked, is the way that Don Mancini will do a bunch of homages to different things that have occurred in the previous films of the franchise. For example, there's a scene in Chucky Season 1 where Caroline tells Lexi that Chucky wants her to kill Lexi. Lexi asks, "How can you say such a thing?" And Caroline's response is, "I didn't. Chucky did." This is very, very similar to a scene from Child's Play 1 in which Andy says something, and I'm paraphrasing here, probably not an exact quote, but he tells his mother that Chucky said about Maggie that she's a real bitch who got what she deserved. And of course, Karen's response was, "How can you say that?" And Andy's reply was, "I didn't. Chucky did." So that was kind of a nice throwback to the first movie. Another one is that in one of the flashback scenes of Season 1, Chucky refers to Tiffany as the body disposal expert, which I think kind of goes back to her introduction in Bride of Chucky, in which case she is getting rid of Damien's body after Chucky murders him when she resurrects him. And then, of course, at the end of the scene, at the end of the season, everyone gathers to watch Frankenstein. And of course, Bride of Chucky was kind of a play on the Bride of Frankenstein. In fact, Chucky first kills Tiffany while she's watching Bride of Chucky in the bathtub. So Don Mancini, obviously, he likes to do homages to previous things in the franchise. In fact, in many ways, I felt like Chucky Season 1 was kind of an inverse of Child's Play 2. If you look at Andy and Jake, both their situations are similar and yet so different. So Andy winds up in a foster home with an awesome stepsister, Kyle. Now, in this family situation, the father doesn't really seem to care about Andy at all. It just thinks he's a nuisance, whereas the mother is very drawn to him, at least until the father's killed. He also has a horrible teacher who, even witnessing Andy being bullied, still decides to single out Andy as the problem. And yet, in season 1 of Chucky, Jay's situation is completely different. He moves in with his aunt, uncle, and cousin. His cousin is completely crappy to him for no reason, as far as I can tell. No reason is ever given for why Junior is a jerk. I mean, yes, his father Logan does push him somewhat, but his father is not actually all that bad in my eyes. In fact, Logan is actually the more defensive of Jake in this when Bree is questioning whether they should be looking after Jake. Bree, of course, while she is unsure if Jake should be there, she's much more sympathetic than the foster parent from Child's Play 2, because we learn eventually she's going through cancer, so she's already got so much on her plate without Jake's issues. But she never goes out of her way to make Jake feel bad. Unfortunately, Jake does hear a part of the conversation, but that sucked. And of course, his teacher in Chucky the series, Miss Fairchild, was an awesome character who I hope is going to be back for season 2. I just loved basically every scene she was in. She didn't put up with Lexi or Oliver's crap. When Lexi's parents tried to defend her behavior, she pulls out a video of Lexi mocking Jake's father's death. I just love the way she did not allow Lexi and the powerful mayor to just steamroll over Jake the way that Miss Kettlewell in Child's Play 2 probably would have, since she was just a complete horrible person. So I just really, really love the way that they have a similar situation. Neither can live with their parent anymore, and they wind up living with another family, and the family situation is completely different. And in many ways, it looks like Season 2 is going to be an inverse of Season 3. I mean, Child's Play 3. In Child's Play 3, Andy went to military school, and in Chucky Season 2, it looks like Jake, Devin, and Lexi are going, I believe, to a Catholic school. So we'll see how that goes. A few complaints I had about the season is there are definitely what appear to be some inconsistencies with the stories. I kind of referenced this in the previous video and then forgot to come back to it. But when Jake and Lexi learn about the explosion at Charles Lee Ray's house, it mentions that there were fatalities involved. Fatalities, that's plural. Now, of course, at the moment, we're left to wonder, were Devin, Kyle, and Andy all killed in the explosion? That's clearly not the case. Both Devin and Andy show up alive. But that leaves only Kyle. That's not fatalities, that's a fatality. So were there other bodies we never saw in that scene? A part of me wonders if perhaps we'll find out that the realtor was killed. Remember the woman that Chucky injured with the apple blade? The razor blade and the apple, who returned to sell Jennifer Tilly Charles Lee Ray's old house. I'm wondering if maybe we'll find out she showed up at some point and was killed. But one problem with that theory is that I personally am leaning towards Kyle having survived the explosion. I think she's the gloved hand we see at the end of Season 1 when the kids are at the gravesite. Another reason I think this is there is very brief, and you can't really make out a face, but in one of the preview scenes of Season 2, you could see someone dressed in leather running, and it looked a lot like Kyle's outfit. So I'm hoping she survived, but if she did, How were there fatalities at that explosion? That didn't really make sense. Another thing that didn't make sense to me, and I'm kind of thinking this is not going to be explained, but Kyle shows up and she explains to Lexi and Jake that Chucky's plan was to corrupt an innocent into killing so that he could take possession of way more doll bodies. First of all, that is super weird. How does a spell know if someone else is responsible for someone committing murder? Secondly, how do Andy and Kyle even know this? I just, I think this is one of those moments where we're not supposed to think too deeply about it, but it's something that just always stuck out to me. And I'd love it if we get answers, but I'm not expecting it. And I did talk about this briefly, I believe, in the previous episode, or video, I should say. But Kyle refers to how Chucky mostly needs to use an identical vessel to split up his soul. But we've seen him do other vessels. Nika is not identical to the Chucky doll, neither is Alice. So I kind of want to know what is going on here. How does all this work? Well, everyone, that's all for this video. Like I said, much shorter than the previous one. Chucky Season 2 debuts tonight, and I am looking forward to it. I hope you are too. I'm Ravi Olive. Please like and subscribe below while I, Ravi Olive.